Hello, what's up, Remington Brown? How you doing?
I'm doing well. I can't complain.
There's one thing I wanted to ask you about, and that was about the new music that you have out up and running. It's got like a unique sound, a clash of blues, kind of like the Fray, kind of like the Gorillas, but then it also has a blues rock sound, kind of like Big Mama Thornton, or a few other like folk rock blues. Like it's very unique, and I wanted to ask you, how do you get your sound to sound unique as it sounds?
Well, I kind of throw my own flavor into the sound. I really don't know what to say about it. I mean, music is music. Rock and roll comes from the blues. It has a unique sound, and it really just gives back to my fans the energy that they want to have to start their day. It's really laid back music, and it really expresses your inner self and inner energy and inner confidence. Like the blues, it's all about hard times, right? It's about being in the struggle, but also being able to express what you're feeling inside. And some people don't understand that, but this is the reality, right? Well, if you're a songwriter, you already know that when you write a song, that you're speaking your mind. And sometimes this is your only voice, is to speak your mind. But this is really how it's done. You write a song, you put it out to the fans. It really motivates the fans to be who they dream to be. That's really how that's done. And then when they be who they dream to be, then they also can just have a better day and just go out and have their high in the world, their brightness in the world. And that's really how that's done.
So how long have you been doing music? I know you were a hip hop artist for a while under Young Torres, and then you decided to do rock.
Well, when I decided to do rock, it was a long story. My father was in a rock band.
Really? I didn't know that.
He was in a band in Philadelphia in the '90s when I was first born, and so it's in my DNA to really play alternative and blues and funk, etc. It's always been in my DNA. So it was only natural to me when I picked up a guitar and I was listening to John Mayer in college, and I decided this is what I want to do. Because when I was a kid, I used to play a lot of alternative rock CDs that my dad had in the '90s. You really jam out the Pearl Jam, Nirvana, stuff like that. It's really modern rock. It's really the millennial era. It's not the classic era.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, because alternative rock is a new movement. It came out in the '90s, and then you see, classic rock died in the '80s. A lot of people don't know this. When bands like the Stones were all getting old, you had bands like REM, and then that led to bands like Nirvana and Live, and then Collective Soul, and then that paved the way for Nickelback and Three Doors Down.
Really, this is very interesting. Was not aware of this. I always thought '90s was classic rock and etc.
'90s is not classic rock. Classic rock is from the '60s until the '80s. Not to be confused with oldies rock. That's another subject for another time. But classic rock was replaced by alternative rock in the '90s. And alternative rock is from the '90s to now. Because you had bands like Green Day that paved the way for bands like Simple Plan, and Blink-182 was also another band that was around when Green Day was around, and it paved the way for bands like Fall Out Boy and stuff like that. And they were big in the 2000s. They call it '90s and '90s because they're both the millennial era.
Really, I didn't know that.
But yeah, the millennial era goes from the '90s, the 2000s, and then Gen Z is the 2010s. So in the 2010s, we had different bands like Cage the Elephant and 21 Pilots.
So rock is technically not dead, is what you're saying.
No, it's not dead. It was just replaced by modern rock, and that happened in the '90s. But the 2010s Gen Z era, there was a lot of new bands, and there always will be new bands. Like you had bands like 21 Pilots, and Foo Fighters still had a lot of hits. Sky is the Neighborhood is one of my favorites from grad school, when they came out with an album in 2017. And that album really led the charts. You have Gary Clark Jr., he's kind of blues rock. And he came out in 2010. He's still selling records. And you just have a lot of new bands. You have a band or artist called Youngblood, and he's really good. He sounds just like Oasis, has that modern rock sound. And Generation Alpha's really jamming to his stuff. It kind of has that 90s sound. So this is Remington Brown. Thank you for joining the show. We're signing off. We want to thank you for joining. We want to thank everybody for joining. We're going to host this show. And have a good week. Hope everyone's staying safe through this coronavirus. Peace.